Checking on the Arts is made possible by the Orpheum Theatre. Opening this Friday, September 15th, and running through October 15th at Hattiloo Theatre, Fetch Clay, Make Man, a play by Will Power. Martin Wilkins is directing the show, and he's joining me today. Welcome. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
This is actually, the title actually means something beyond what it obviously says, but this is actually a play about a real historical event that I certainly never knew anything about, and it's a fascinating sort of look into many facets of Black history, and especially in sort of the entertainment and sports fields in this country. Tell us about this play.
So, Fetch Clay Make Man is written by the playwright Will Power, who, in addition to being a playwright, is also a performance artist. He actually began as a rapper, as a poet. But in writing this play, he discovered that there had actually existed a friendship between Muhammad Ali and Stepin Fetchit. And what really fascinated him about that is, of course, we think of Muhammad Ali as an icon, particularly of civil rights for the betterment of lives for Black people. Mm-hmm. And Stepin Fetchit is really seen as a throwback in a lot of ways. Exactly. For a lot of people, a very controversial figure as well.
A very unlikely friendship.
Exactly. It would have seemed that Stepin Fetchit would have been, and what he represented would have been an antithesis to who Muhammad Ali, particularly at this point in the play, was becoming, because to the world he was still Cassius Clay.
Right. Oh, that's a really good point. Mm-hmm. He had not embraced Islam yet.
He actually, I will say, when we actually find him in this period of the play, because this takes place, it's the second, it's the rematch between Muhammad Ali and Sonny Liston. Okay. So in the year before, after defeating Liston the first time for the heavyweight championship, is when he openly became a member of the Nation of Islam, although he had embraced the faith a few years before that. But the world was still adjusting to the idea that their Cassius Clay, who had gone off, won the gold medal in Rome for the Olympics, was now a member of what was seen as really a Black Muslim sect.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but Ali had a very specific reason for seeking out Stepin Fetchit. So tell us about that.
Indeed. Now, this is actually really, really interesting. Of course, after defeating Liston in the first fight, it was believed that he was looking for a way. He understood that Sonny Liston would really be gunning for him in the second fight.
Sure.
And so he was wanting to find a way of being able to defeat him. And so what he at least believed was that Jack Johnson, who also was a very storied, famous boxer, had this punch. Now, it's been known as the Phantom Punch. If people remember from that fight, Ali was able to, the rematch, Ali was able to hit Sonny Liston very quickly and knock him out in that first round. And so it became known as the Phantom Punch, but Muhammad Ali actually called it the Anchor Punch. And of course, Muhammad Ali would not have had the benefit of replay video, because Jack Johnson would have been fighting at a time when that didn't exist. So he was looking to find someone who knew what this punch was, and Stepin Fetchit had been good friends with Jack Johnson. So he sought out Stepin Fetchit, Lincoln Perry, which was actually Stepin Fetchit's name, to teach him the punch.
That's a fascinating story.
Indeed.
and it's just there's so much almost mythology going on there.
Yes. In fact, kind of a fun thing, there's a YouTube clip. If you go to YouTube and type in Muhammad Ali Anchor Punch, it's maybe about a minute and a half where he's talking specifically about the punch. And when he starts to bring it up to the reporter, you hear someone off camera go, "Oh, is that the punch Stepin Fetchit helped you with?" This is a very true thing. Indeed it is. Yes.
Okay, well, now I've got to go find that.
Yes.
I don't know if people now, of course we all know Muhammad Ali, but I don't know if people nowadays really remember who Stepin Fetchit was and what that character was. So kind of run through that for us.
So the actor Lincoln Perry, who was better known as Stepin Fetchit, he himself was a trailblazer in Hollywood. Before him, no Black screen actor had ever received screen credit. Mm-hmm. He was also the first Black actor to receive $1 million or to become a millionaire playing the role. But the role, for people who don't know it, was really he was seen as a character who was shiftless, lazy, He would oftentimes play as if he was about to fall asleep, and he would never work. Now, the interesting thing about looking at Steppenfetchit through this lens, through our lens now, is that I think in more modern history, he's been sort of seen as a kind of trickster. That, and this actually is mentioned in the play, that the joke was actually that he was never doing the work that the white people wanted him to do. That was the joke to the audience then. But by the time you would have come around to Muhammad Ali's era, there was definitely a movement to present an image of black people that wasn't of the kind of shiftless, bumbling idiot that Steppenfetchit had been seen as. And in fact, part of the reason why the character Steppenfetchit fell out of favor was because you had organizations like the NAACP and whatnot who were looking to allow for better images of black people. There was a time even in film where black people could not play dramatic roles. This is what Steppenfetchit, or Lincoln Perry, the actor, walked into. And it had been his hope that he could take Steppenfetchit and turn him into more serious characters. But unfortunately for him, he just was not of that era. And so it stunted his ability to continue his career. And by the time he actually met Muhammad Ali, he was basically not working anymore.
Okay. We're talking about Fetch Clay, Make Man. It opens this Friday and runs through October 15th at Hattiloo Theatre. For tickets and more information, the box office is 525-0009 or hattiloo.org. And if you haven't been to their new gorgeous theater, you should go anyway. Martin Wilkins is here with me. He's directing the show. What was the relationship like between these two men? Because they seem on the surface to be such polar opposites, but obviously they found some common ground.
Indeed. I think one of the things that the play does a really brilliant job of doing, because one of the things I think it does well is that we are meeting Muhammad Ali at a very early point in his life, in his career. He's only about 23 years old. He's just married. He's just openly embraced this faith. I think it's also worth mentioning that Malcolm X had been assassinated several months before this rematch. So there was a lot of tension happening around this fight. I think what the play beautifully explores is a relationship between two black men of two different generations. I think certainly, yes, you're correct. As far as they're historically seen, they're polar opposites. But I think to a young man like Muhammad Ali, certainly to meet someone who had been a friend of Jack Johnson's, he needed a mentor. He needed a mentor who could help him navigate the incredible fame that he was finding at this time. And certainly while Lincoln Perry would have fallen out of favor at this point in his life and wasn't as famous as he had once been, I think what the play allows is that these two men meet in this room, the dressing room before this fight, and really begin to work out what it means to be black men navigating a system where they are not supposed to succeed. And yet through everything, they find ways of doing it. So in a lot of ways, the man Lincoln Perry, known as Steppenfetchit, becomes a father figure for Muhammad Ali in this play. It's beautiful work.
That's just fascinating stuff. And there are so many ways to look at this, too. Of course, Lincoln Perry became rich and famous playing the worst stereotype of African-American culture. Muhammad Ali, of course, just an iconic figure, but not yet at this time. Exactly. At this time, very much of a figure of controversy.
Exactly. I think that's a really important point to make as well. You know, when Muhammad Ali stepped into the ring of that rematch, he was booed. Yeah, and this is even before the Vietnam controversy as well. Exactly. So I think being able to look at him through that lens will be fascinating for the audience. And I think also, too, to remember that sometimes there's a way that our people who actually blaze a trail, because they often have to compromise in doing so. For Lincoln Perry, his relationship with Ali would have been about resurrection and redemption. And I think that is also beautifully expressed in the play as well.
Well, this sounds fascinating. Fetch Clay, Make Man. It opens this Friday, runs through October 15th at Hattiloo Theatre. Get your tickets now, 525-0009 or hattiloo.org. Martin Wilkins directing the show. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you again for having me.